Allies podcast. I'm your moderator, Kyle Bosman, and on our panel this week, Daniel Bloodworth.
Hey.
Ben Moore.
What's up?
And Brandon Jones.
Hi, everybody.
And this is our first episode of this podcast.
Hey! How awesome is this?
This is very, very cool.
And no other episode will look like this.
No episode will look like this or sound like this. Everything will get better.
If you're a listener, you should know we're all talking into one tiny microphone, so that would explain why it sounds like it does. Should we explain what Easy Allies is first? Should we get into it?
Yes.
Sure.
Let's dig into it. Brandon Jones, what is Easy Allies?
Easy Allies is a very successful Patreon. Easy Allies is a group of video game journalists that have banded together in the wake of horrible tragedy to create a new channel where we're going to be talking about games, streaming games, reviewing games, and producing shows about games. The Easy Allies podcast is kind of the cornerstone of the Easy Allies channel and our Patreon. If you subscribe to us on Patreon, you get the Easy Allies podcast early. If you are not subscribed, you're probably watching this this Friday. It was recorded a couple days earlier, so if you want to get those fresh news headlines, you're gonna want to get in there early. We're gamers, man. We're talking about games. It's been way too long since I've been getting together with Kyle Bosman and talking about games.
We have a Patreon. This is very cool. If you were curious what this podcast is all about, if you haven't seen us do a podcast before, this is primarily a news-based podcast. I like to talk about what's happened this week. I'm going to try to do that this week as much as possible. And also, I like to guess about things. That's one of my favorite things is to make predictions. And so that appears in this podcast a lot as well. We like to have fun. We like to stay on point. And let's just do it. Let's start talking about video games, yeah?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So, a huge bomb dropped last week. Kotaku reported that Sony is working on, and that's the words working on in their headline, a PlayStation 4.5, meaning a beefier PlayStation 4. Shall I read their words?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so this is Patrick Klepek reporting. Based on conversations with developers who have spoken with Sony, this PS4.5 will include an upgraded GPU, both to support high-end 4K resolution for games and add more processing power that can enhance the games supported by PlayStation VR, the headset Sony will launch this fall. Are we believing? First of all, are we believing? Do we believe that this is a thing?
1,000%.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
a lot of percentage points.
That's a lot of
confidence. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I feel like I can back this up. I feel like this is a logical thing. So back in the day, right? Game consoles were expected to do one thing: play video games. Within the first 6 months / 12 months of the PS4 being out, compared to PCs, compared to a lot of other stuff, it was underperforming. Developers were coming out and saying, this box that hasn't even been out that long can't do what we want it to do. And your Xbox One, your PlayStation 4 are not just expected to play games anymore. And they're especially not just expected to play single-player games anymore, right? So not only is your PlayStation 4 potentially the only way you consume television, the way that you stream, the way that you play games, now we're doing VR. And I feel like this sort of trend is only going to continue. These boxes are going to get more and more complex, and as they get more complex, the demands on them is going to increase. And so you're going to need more frequent hardware updates as a result to catch up to that. But maybe consumers don't want that. There might be pushback.
So I wanted to touch on one thing that you talked about is that it is right now a PS4 I don't think can output everything to a 4K TV even as it is.
Yes.
And Sony that's in all of their best interest to invest heavily in 4K because of cameras, because of TVs. Do they still sell TVs?
We
don't know.
Sony?
I feel that's really bad that we don't know.
Oh, yeah. Sony sells TVs? Of course they sell TVs.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, exactly. They wanted to double down on 4K. I get that was a good thing worth bringing up. Yeah. But the last thing you said is if people want it. And that's what I really want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Is because I believe Kotaku's reporting. I believe that at least Sony was talking to developers at GDC about this. Do you want it? Do you want that to happen?
I don't know if I want that to happen, but I want it.
You do?
If it exists. If
you're
they're
buy one. You're I'm down to buy a PlayStation 4.5.
Yeah.
Why?
Same reason I want to buy a new 3DS. I want to buy the latest gaming technology, And,
yeah.
And it's actually interesting to look. I actually was thinking of Apple as a model, but Nintendo's do the same thing. They've released with their DS. They've released all sorts of different. It's 3 or 4 versions of every Game Boy or Game Boy Advance or DS, 3DS.
Well, that's what's particularly interesting to me though, because what we've heard about the NX is this weird idea of a scalable hardware system, and that like the NX won't be hardware, it will be the OS that runs the games, and that somehow who knows how many configurations of hardware there will be. So I wonder, like, is the PS4 just as scalable, and are they trying to get in on that same kind of thing where, like, okay, every year or two you have a new PS4, that doesn't mean you can't play games on your old PS4, but if you play them on the new one, they'll be better.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
The only issue I take with your Nintendo comparison, Brandon, is in the vast majority of cases, right? Like every game that comes out on 3DS, you can play on the very first 3DS that came out. Whereas I feel like with this PS4 1.5, the way that it would work is you're going to be locked out of stuff in a more severe way.
Oh no! Don't you do that, Ben?
So
really, you would think they would do that? Like
I don't think
can't
that they
play
can
on my
do that.
4?
Yeah.
I think VR would be the main. I think there might be some VR games that it just won't work on the old PS4.
I bet that's what's happening. I bet it is the VR push.
But the thing is, and this is something I want to bounce off you guys. Do you think it would be like, okay, Destiny 2 is going to be more powerful on the PlayStation 4 1.5 than it is on the PlayStation
4.5
or PlayStation 4.5. Sorry for the naming.
I like PlayStation 4K better than anything. I love it calling it that. Let's call it for that for the rest of the
Okay, so we're calling it PlayStation 4K. So do you think that would be something that would happen? Like a big profile game is publicly saying that it's going to be better, because I think in the minds of a lot of people, like, you're not going to want to play an inferior version of the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
You know? That's going to be a big deal.
Maybe, but didn't they put that game out on last gen? So.
Right, but it like, okay. I don't know. I as somebody who does try to get in on all the latest tech and all that stuff, like, I honestly don't know how successful in comparison to current gen stuff Destiny was on last gen. Do we have any barometer for that?
I mean, I'm sure they're
nothing official.
Nothing
officially
put up
released.
a release
Exactly.
of them, but yeah, it's weird because if you look at the phone market, like, that seems to be the norm. That phones just come out constantly, and for the most part, your apps work. You know, maybe some outlier they won't, or eventually they won't work after a few years. But yeah, I don't know if it'll really work for consoles though, because there's just such a totally different mindset for people that feel like they invested in this thing and now the company already owes them so much stuff.
Yeah, because PlayStation 4s are expensive. You spend a lot of money on that.
Mm-hmm.
But so are phones.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of deals out there to get them cheap, and then you end up getting, gigged for a lot of money they say you weren't going to pay. But yeah, it's a weird thing.
Do you think this is a potentially slippery slope, right? Like, let's say with the PlayStation 4K, they are taking all these concerns into consideration, right? Like, let's make a parallel to DLC, where this new and improved box comes out and they really knock it out of the park. They justify whatever cost they put to it, but then they think to themselves, oh man, people are willing to buy multiple versions of a console in the same generation, and much like DLC, right, there's a lot of, like, it gets more questionable over time, or do you think, like, does that scenario make any sense?
Yeah, if it's successful, they'll keep doing it.
Right. And do you think people should rightfully be afraid of using that system?
I think people should be extremely afraid. This is a scary, scary story if you just bought a PlayStation 4. Because it could be as soon as the end of the year that your PlayStation 4 is already old. And I think that sucks.
I think why it's old is the main thing that's going to keep us afraid about this until we get details. Because it's just like, does that mean, there are services that you're going to provide that I'm not going to get? Does that mean that, the PSVR is not going to work on my PlayStation 4? Does it mean that some game just straight up is just not going to work? Does that mean the games that are on my hard drive are going to vanish somehow, or something? You're going to do some weird PT nonsense?
But even, like, to me, Jones, like, personally, if they're just like, what? No, your PlayStation 4 games will still work. They'll just be a little worse. I know that will bug me.
Right?
I think it's going to bug a lot of people.
Like, and it's just, like, it's going to bug me knowing this could be better if I bought the PlayStation 4K.
I'm curious, though. Yeah, I'm curious, like, what the actual implementation might be. Because, like, what if it's, so for instance, the PlayStation VR, it comes with this attachment that has a processor that does several things, including it handles the social screen. So it's not a GPU or a CPU. It's just its own special processor. So I'm wondering if, like, this theoretical, maybe experimental PlayStation 4.5, if it similarly had a coprocessor that would boost, like, almost like an SLI configuration on a PC. It's like it's a second processor to, like, boost things to be 4K without looking blurry, or give things a more stable frame rate, because PlayStation VR, they say if your game is not 60 frames per second at least, then it's outright rejected. Will not pass cert. Don't even submit it.
Yeah, cool. So Blood, that's really interesting, and I think if that's the case, I wouldn't have a problem. Yeah. If they're just like, hey, PlayStation 4K looks great on 4K TVs, I'm like, okay, I don't need it.
Right.
I do, before we move on, and kind of on Ben's slippery slope point, I want to talk about Xbox One. Because recently Phil Spencer was kind of saying, hey, we're looking into something like this. We might make the Xbox One upgradable. We might do stuff like that.
Upgradable is an even weirder term.
Yeah, exactly. It was way weirder. But he was being very general. He was not making any commitments. I don't think that is as far along as this PlayStation 4K is. But if PlayStation 4K comes out, is Xbox One going to have to do something like that too? Or could they stay strong with the Xbox One for a few more years?
Using Xbox and strong in the same sentence, I think is you're rushing that.
No, they're being strong.
They are strong.
They're strong. How dare you?
PS4 is ahead, but Xbox is strong.
Yeah.
I did have that thought, but I passed it. You know, if this was a deliberate rush, you know, by Sony to like, if both of us have accepted that, you know, not even this year, but long ago, and then told our teams, okay, we're gonna need a 4.5, go build it, you know, and then you know both the Xbox team and the Sony team ran off, and started doing that.
Yeah.
And if you know Sony's gonna reach that finish line first, if that's like them waiting for Dracula to go back in the crypt and they just go in and you're dead, you know, it's like it's over. Even if it's going to be 6 months before you get an Xbox One, it's like that's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Because the best case scenario, everyone loves the idea and they buy all the PlayStation 4s. They're not going to buy your dumb console. Worst case scenario, like the industry rejects this idea. There's no way you can sell that, especially Microsoft and the way they've like fumbled, you know, advertising on the Xbox. But I'm gonna buy the dumb thing because it's better.
Yeah.
You know, and I bought an app, you know, an iPhone 4S. I bought a new 3DSi. You know, it's like I bought these dumb things before because they were slightly better.
Yeah. But I mean, that again speaks to like where different people are at and where they value things. You know, right? Like I got finally an iPhone because, well, iPhone 6 was announced, so I can get a 5C for nothing. You know, so I wonder if there's that as well.
Oh, people are saying now I'll get a PS4?
Yeah, they'll get the PS4 because they slashed the PS4 by $100 or something like that. You know, and then there'll be a lot of people reselling them as well.
This is kind of a different conversation, but on the same note, a lot of people are going to be upset at me for saying this, but I almost feel like very recently, in their own way of speaking, like, I feel less confident about why I need an Xbox One more than ever before, right? Like,
that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh no, I definitely I'm in the same boat because I'm like, well, I should just buy Quantum Break on PC, right?
Right. And I'm not against PC players getting those games. It's not that. But if Microsoft is now asking me, like, hey, man, you buy these upgrades, like, if the majority or all of what I want is on the PC, like, why would I just stick to Xbox when I say to myself, well, maybe I should just upgrade my PC?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a conversation worth having. And I think that's a conversation a lot of people are going to have with themselves, you know? And
well, especially because they're trying to get the interface closer and closer and closer. So Windows 10 and Xbox interface being almost identical, you know.
Absolutely. So like, in an extreme situation, you know, just totally theorizing here, at what point does Microsoft say, like, let's just support PC or make something that's equivalent to a Steam box, you know?
Yeah, well, it might be coming soon. It might be coming. They're laying hints, aren't they?
It seems that way.
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Me out.
I'm sorry.
It's too far in the future, Ben. Hopefully. Speaking of how far in the future, the Wii U. We got a report about the Wii U this week. Just today, actually, from Nikkei, Japanese publication, who is almost never wrong, very on point, that the Wii U will end production by the end of the year. Meaning Nintendo will no longer make any Wii U's by the end of the year. Not only that, they've already stopped making some accessories.
Wow.
And so, what I want to talk about this, I want to talk about a couple of things. But first, let's be hopeful. Let's not be down on the Wii U. Let's talk about what kind of implications this has on the NX, which I think is huge.
Yeah, well, this is the most convincing argument I've ever heard that the NX is imminent.
Yeah.
And I'll make it clear that Nintendo has denied, you know, they haven't confirmed the reports at all. Like
Very
it's,
true. Yeah,
it's like this didn't come from us.
These are
What are you
rumors.
guys talking about? Come on.
Yeah.
But of course, the problem is there have been times where these reports have come out and they've been nothing.
Yeah.
And then been other times where these reports have come out and Nintendo's like, oh no, and then like 2 days later they announced the very thing that was
The
reported.
new 3DS or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think I think at home, I think you have every reason to believe that this is probably very true, that they are ending production.
Well, I mean, it not to go back to the thing we were just talking about. This is just a weird console gen. This is,
Sure.
Everyone's having to rewrite the rules. Like the whole period leading up to the release of the Xbox One and PS4 was super weird, and none of us were really prepared for it. And then like how these consoles have performed, how they've handled each of their big media events, and how they're handling this technology jump. The one point that I was going to bring on the PS4 thing that I think is interesting because it makes you upset. I don't think that's really going to piss off people. I think that's an announcement that like Sony fans are actually going to get really excited about.
Oh, the NX?
Yeah. No, the 4.5.
You think people are going to be excited when they say that?
I think so.
Oh boy, Jones.
I think Sony fans are going to be like, I want it. Oh my God, look at that thing. It's beautiful. I want it.
I can tell you right now, the internet's sentiment is going the other way.
Okay.
But I mean, there is always that group of people that are so devoted to a single company that they think anything they do is good, right?
Right.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I do agree.
yeah.
I think the general sentiment is going to go the opposite.
But I think the people when Nintendo says, "Hey, we're done with the Wii U, onto the NX," I think far fewer people will be mad. I think people are so ready to bury that Wii U.
I agree with you, but there's a point that I thought of that stories like this are so frustrating for me.
Sure.
And another story that's really frustrating for me is you have these conversations with people that aren't as heavily invested in games, and you're having this conversation, you're like, oh man, Bayonetta 2 is amazing, and then they say to you, well, I don't really want to get a Wii U. There's not that many games on it. I heard it's not as good. Like they just read the news and they're saying like, oh, the Wii U is underperforming. It's the same situation here. Like, you're gonna this stuff, like they're ending production on the Wii U. Like, let's say Star Fox Zero comes out and is incredible.
Yeah.
You're going to have to fight against the fact that people are gonna be like, well, they're not supporting the Wii U anymore. Maybe I shouldn't play this great game. And it creates these situations where potentially incredible things don't get the attention they deserve because of outside factors.
Yeah. And that's why Nintendo should deny this rumor at all costs.
And it drives me nuts. I wish people didn't think that way. It makes sense in a way, but I feel like there's so many cases where excellent games get buried because of some preconceived notion.
Well, I think that and I think it's also points to what's already fairly likely that the NX will be backward compatible in some way, one way or another.
I'm willing to bet otherwise.
I'm willing to bet otherwise as well.
I mean, they have been backward compatible since they moved to discs.
Yeah, but the Wii U is weird. It's hard to backwards. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like
It
really
could
hard.
For it to be backwards compatible,
yeah.
you need a gamepad. It needs to support the gamepad.
Yeah. I don't know, Blood, but keep going on that point. Let's say, yes, that it is backwards compatible. You think that's not a big deal then?
I mean, I think that this points towards the likelihood of it being backwards compatible because, they're going to want to sell more of these games that they've put a lot of investment into and definitely not gotten that investment back.
Yeah. I did want to talk about that because, like, Nintendo usually, I mean, they do backwards compatibility. They also usually sell their old console for a long time after their new one is out.
Everybody
there.
does. I mean,
Everybody does.
There's at least 1 year crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to just shut it off hard once they release their
But
new
manufacturing
things,
doesn't mean they won't have any. So they could just have too many right now and be like, well, nobody's going to buy this thing, especially when we have an NX out there.
It's like moving out of one apartment on Friday and moving into another one on Monday. Like, yeah, you could do it, I guess, but it's very risky. You should probably have a month layover.
The only other time I can think that this happened was when the Xbox 360 came out. They shut off the Xbox hard. Like, really mean. They just, like, stopped making it because they wanted everybody to move to 360. Is that good? I don't know. I guess we kind of already decided that, like, yeah, we're cool with it, especially if it's backwards compatible. What I want to talk about along those lines is the legacy of the Wii U. I think we have to assume the Wii U is dead at the end of this year. We got to look at
Absolutely.
We don't. There's nothing we know now as of today that's happening.
Yeah.
That we should look forward to. Other than Zelda.
Zelda is
The
it.
Star Fox is coming? No, we got that.
Star Fox, sure.
But I mean, you even look at the output,
Well,
I don't...
Past the year. You know that one thing that one guy mentioned? Yeah, what's happening with that? There's none of those.
Sure. Yeah. Beyond Zelda, you're right. That's all.
I mean, if you look at, like, a lot of these things, like the Mario Party and the Amiibo thing, and, like, Nintendo isn't putting their best foot forward for a reason. It's like,
Oh, you mean our filler year?
yeah,
filler
it's
year
a
we've had.
total like crop of filler games there, and even them like throwing like Project Guard into Star Fox to like really encourage people to buy that game, And
Yeah, wait, hold on. We should stop for a second and talk about that because that is insane.
Yeah.
What is Project Guard and what does it have to do with Star Fox?
They were
Play?
2 separate demos at E3 a couple years back where
Yeah.
like here is what we could do with the Star Fox game.
Yeah.
Because the problem was that nobody was seeing why anyone should care about a gamepad.
Yeah, and Nintendo
So-
wanted to prove it.
So one of them was Star Fox, and
Yeah.
it's showing you could fly one way and you could look the other way and shoot.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Project Guard, where it's like you had this monitor of all of these different cameras, and now they've taken both of them and it's like one Star Fox or 2 Star Fox games in one package.
Yeah.
But the box art is the best part of
It's
Project
really
Guard.
cool.
Or
You-
Star
you-
Fox Guard now.
You play as Slippy. Yeah, you play as Slippy, and you have Uncle Grippy.
Grippy, is that his name?
Uncle Grippy is a frog with a mustache, of course, and like you are controlling the security cameras on some planet, and
And
that's
can't
free.
you even like create your own and
But-
stuff like that?
Yeah, you can create your own levels.
Other than the Star Fox skin, I mean, at its core, what you want to see in those demos, right, that people are importing on,
Yeah.
you want to see that kernel of an idea evolve into like a full game where they're like, wow, they really took this idea and fleshed it out in incredible ways. This is just that idea. They
Well,
didn't,
yes.
like,
Maybe.
It's not a full game.
Because I mean,
Right.
like,
It
again,
does
if you
not
go
prove
back,
that the Wii U is that the gamepad was viable ever.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where like it could be until you play, you don't know.
Yeah.
Because
It
like I
very
feel
well
like
be,
Captain Toad.
You
If
know
I
about
just saw a
Captain
couple
Toad.
of Captain Toad levels and like, okay, I wouldn't have had any idea. I would love that whole game.
Yeah. But what I want to talk about along those lines is this feeling we have right now about the Wii U. Will that be how we feel about it 5 years from now? Is this going to be the legacy of the Wii U?
Absolutely
Will the Wii U
not.
have a legacy?
absolutely not.
Yeah.
What do you think the legacy is going to be?
The legacy, like, I would bet my life that the legacy will almost be identical. Not identical, but, okay, not identical, definitely not, but comparable to the Dreamcast, right?
Yeah.
At the time of the Dreamcast, the general public was either total indifference
Or made fun of it?
or made fun of it.
I made fun of the Dreamcast. You're
Really?
right. man.
Absolutely,
I totally forgot about
absolutely.
that.
Every person on the internet, like, what happens is enough time passes, these people, these very knowledgeable people that know way too much about a specific thing are like, no, actually, the Dreamcast is great because of these reasons. And they make a video or an article about it, and then people are like, oh yeah, that is cool. And we don't get stuff like that anymore.
Yeah.
Totally gonna happen.
I-
You're going to see like Banner 2 is the best thing ever. Tropical Freeze is the most underrated platform. Go play it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just going to see this cult of personality grow and grow and grow and grow. And people are gonna be like, no man, you just didn't get the GameCube. Or sorry,
Wii U, yeah.
Freudian
Dreamcast.
slip there. You just didn't get the Wii U. You just didn't get it, man. And that's gonna catch on.
Jones, you seem skeptical. Do you think the Wii U will always be a little trash child?
No, you bring up a good point. Yeah, Dreamcast is a really interesting comparison, especially because it's like you want, it's like you think about Power Stone and Soul Calibur and like your favorite like Dreamcast game, Tony Hawk, like these like amazing like Dreamcast games, and then you think about the console and you kind of get like mad at the console. You're just like, no, I wanted that to be more, but God, those games were so good.
Yeah, you
And I
ever
think
go
that's
back and
what
you
we're
pick
gonna
up
be, where
that?
it's like, God, why do they have to do a stupid gamepad? And like I was going through games. When we were packing stuff up, we were packing up the library. I'm like going through stuff, and I'm like grabbing the Wii U game. I'm like, am I gonna want any of these Wii U games? And I'm like, oh, here's Wii Sports. Why didn't we talk about Wii Sports and the Wii U? Like, why wasn't that a thing?
It was.
Why wasn't like when
Because it
Wii
was
Sports
just a
came to the Wii U, it was
repackage.
like,
yeah.
it's back, another one. And you're like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Same with Wii Fit. Like Nintendo expected those two things, I think, to be big hits. And
So
they were
it's just
dropped
like I'm
immediately.
just raging on these opportunities
Yeah.
that weren't fulfilled, and then it's just like every 5 minutes I see of Tropical Freeze that I haven't seen before. It's just magic every time,
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be the affinity towards a select group of games that defined the uniqueness of the console, and just general frustration towards the actual hardware itself.
What if in some bizarre future, like 10 to 15 to 20 years from now, like, okay, Retro Studios comes out, they make these like killer Metroid games. They're just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they keep doing that for a while. And then like the opposite happens where people are like, go back to Donkey Kong.
I promise you that will be me.
It's gonna happen.
I'm gonna be so mad when they're just like another excellent first-person Metroid. Like, I want his donkey. Yeah, no, that'll be me for sure. I'm not ready to move on to bad news yet, actually.
Okay.
We've done too much bad news. So, Blood, it's time now for Blood's GDC Minute. Blood got to go to GDC.
Yeah.
You were there, and you have some highlights about like your experiences there, what you got to see and learn. So please share that with us now.
Honestly, it's one of the coolest trade shows I've ever gone to.
Whoa!
Simply because of the context that I was not there for work.
Okay.
In like a real way. Like it was just like everybody here is community and family, and hey, let's all hang out and learn from each other kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I did play a few games. I got into like multiple VR demos, not because I went to go see those VR demos, but because I went to see somebody at that booth and talk to them, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to play this?" Okay.
Cool.
So I got to do at Epic's booth. I got to do Bullet Train, which is like you pick up guns and you shoot guys and then you
I've seen the
teleport around
trailer
the room.
for that. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. It's one of the ones that felt more like, oh, this is an actual game.
So when you say pick up guns, you're using a Vive, I assume?
That one was Oculus Rift with the Oculus Touch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was pretty good. It's funny though because it's like I feel like they're trying to accommodate people's newness to this so much that like the AI is deliberately dumbed down.
Oh, okay.
Because like to solve the walking problem with this, like you just teleport to different points around the arena, around the train station.
No.
Yeah, it's a little weird. So you can dodge and stuff like that, but then you teleport. But when you teleport, the guys are like, well, "Where'd you go?" And it happens for like a little bit too long, and they're like, "I'm gonna shoot you!" Ha ha ha. Yeah. So, but then you can also like grab bullets out of the air and throw them back. So it's weird because it's like. There's this mix of like, this is really incredible, but this is like, if I weren't in VR, this would be not a great demo.
Sure.
But still, it's cool to see like all of that stuff working fairly well. And then the other one they had at Epic's was the lightsaber thing, where you basically, the Millennium Falcon lands, you pull down something, try to fix some stuff, and then R2. You grab the lightsaber from R2, and then stormtroopers come up behind you, and you start deflecting.
You got to start with this, Blood. You got to open with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So this is real Star Wars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very brief demo. Basically, all you do is push a couple buttons and then swing a lightsaber.
What was that in?
That was in Epic's booth.
Oh, an Epic's booth. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's running on Unreal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on Brandon Jones's face right now, I can guarantee you a portion of the Easy Allies budget is now going to be that.
So that was on the Vive.
The Millennium Falcon is when you really got it. Lightsaber was Millennium Falcon. He's in.
Yeah. So there's just stormtroopers coming at you, shooting you, and you got to have you just got to judge like when it's at the right. It's almost like you're playing baseball. You just got to hit the ball back at them.
What did it feel like though? Did it feel like you were there?
Yeah, and it felt 1-to-1. The one thing I will say with that one in particular was, the Vive is a little bit more encouraging people to move around. But so I was doing the Falcon one way, and then the guys came up behind me, and so when I turned around, then like the cord sort of wrapped around my leg, and I'm like, right. Okay, well, move too much now.
That's an issue, man. I guess.
Yeah. But the coolest thing actually with the VR stuff was something I didn't actually get to experience, but I saw the demo on stage, and it was very much like a demo I did with the Oculus last year, and it was a PlayStation VR, and it was a network multiplayer thing, so it's online, and they had 3 people there, but they say that they've done this like across international boundaries, so like people in Japan and America.
Social VR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's cool because it's like you really, really get this sense that you're in the room with these people that are just all over the place. And they did some really neat stuff. Like if you turned your head towards somebody, they had animated eyes that like would basically make eye contact with you. Uh-huh. And when you talk, the mouths would animate as well to match. And so really, like even though you're looking at a bunch of cartoon people, it feels like you're having fun and you're just throwing snowballs at each other and jumping on trampolines and whatever. And so I think
in 5 years we don't even have to be in the same room.
Right.
You don't know how much I want that.
So but that's why I think like Sony is being super smart is like showing like multiplayer stuff more than other people.
Yeah.
Because same thing. They announced that it's going to launch a Playroom VR, which four people using controllers and one person in a headset, and then they've done things so that like what people see on the TV, there's also a TV in the room, so like when people are picking menus, like you're kind of connected to what they're doing.
Crazy.
Or that like when you're playing as the Godzilla monster, like there's like camera shots of you so that you have an idea of like what you look like to the other people.
Oh, okay.
And so that kind of thing. So you kind of
That's
get
cool,
into your role.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So yeah, VR was definitely a high point. And it was actually, this GDC was a lot of VR and a lot of indies. You didn't see a lot of like big AAA games
Did
around.
you get to go to any panels?
I went to quite a few panels, and that was
Okay.
actually really cool too.
What was the
to
best
learn
panel? What was the best
The
one?
best panel.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good ones. There was one that was a Diablo
It sounded
post-mortem. I
amazing.
told you some great stories there. There was a guy who had pirated Diablo and a kid who came up during the QA and then handed the guy the money that he owed from pirating.
That's cool.
But like lots of like cool stories about like how that whole went up.
And the design documents are like public now.
Yeah, he put the design documents up.
Wow.
They're really cool to look
Oh
at.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Do yourself a favor, Google them because they're worth looking at. Yeah.
Man, I went to the Lawbreakers one with Cliff B, and because Rohan was at that one. I went to a really fascinating talk with the guy that did the Mega Man Legacy Collection, talking about how we don't do enough to like honor like the back catalog of games, and it's like really hard to get a hold of old games in
Yeah.
a legal
Oh yeah.
way.
Oh yeah.
And
We
it-
talked a lot about this on the show. That scares
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was also talking about like the industry is afraid of emulation, even though anytime emulation itself has been brought to court, like it's legal. You can emulate machines. It's perfectly fine. Don't be afraid of it. And I guess MAME is going open source, which is a big deal to him and to people in that
And
scene.
that's arcade, right? MAME is arcade.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, but yeah, so that was fascinating talk. I'm trying to remember what some of the, I went to a bunch of Witcher things on like the, just like the tools that they use for the dialogue, and then like the musicians that they used.
So I have to ask you then, like you're sitting in a room, you're sitting in a panel that's designed for game developers, and they're talking about their tools. Are you able to follow along and like learn, or is it all over your head?
Oh no, definitely wasn't all in my head. Because like the cinematic dialogue tools look very much like an editing timeline. You know, just a lot more details. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on the panel, of course, you know. But then, like, I sat in on one where it was like, you know, it was geared towards indie devs and like, hey, anyone can do PR, and like, and then kind of go the beats of like the right way to introduce your game and the kind of timeline of things you should hit, and it kind of goes into a lot of stuff we talk about on Trailer Score back in the day. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I recognize everything that you're talking about. It's just from the other side, a different perspective.
Right.
I honestly believe, and I am completely guilty of this. I am not admonishing people and not recognizing it myself. But I think one of the greatest sins of gaming journalism and like this profession, and if you want to call it that, whatever. We don't have to get hung up on what it's called. But the fact that you don't have to know more about game design to write about games. Like, you just have to be knowledgeable about the games themselves, and you have to be like a fan, and you have to you have to understand it like at a certain level, but you don't have to understand like how that process comes to be. And I think that would be so much more valuable if we prized that at a higher level.
Oh,
like
the knowledge of
yeah.
how things are made.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yes.
dude.
I like. You look at sports, right, and the people, the commentators that really get the attention, that really get the praise, are the people that did it themselves.
Collinsworth, my boy.
Yeah, they have a history of this sport because they've been through it. They
Yeah.
can talk about how it felt to get hit by that guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
it's not just
yeah.
like they have way more knowledge than somebody that's just sitting back and watching the couch. And I think like. I don't know if the thing is I don't know if the audience feels the same way, but as somebody who's been writing about it, like there are so many interviews with game developers that I see that are woefully inadequate. Like if you're asking like, so how many players are there in multiplayer? Like you could get so much more out of that interview if you understood what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the funny thing, like the PlayStation VR panel I went to, which I think probably was one of the better panels I did. You know, like he started off with, you know, correcting the audience on something that had been widely misreported, you know? It's just
Right.
kind of,
What was that?
about the processing unit, you know, and people calling it a GPU or CPU or something like that. And it's like, no, it's just, it does these specific things. And it's,
So let's set this record straight then. So when you buy a PlayStation VR, it comes with a little box outside
Yeah.
of it.
let
And
me
people
see if
saw that box and they're like, oh, so that makes the PS4 stronger? I
Right.
guess we learned the truth about what that will be later on. But
Yeah,
what
see
is
if I can find it. But you can keep talking.
I think it's for adjusting the frame rate. I think is actually what the box does, right? It makes it so.
Well, it handles the social screen.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So like, yeah, that when it goes back out. Oh, dude, no, that was okay. So I'm not even gonna worry about that.
I love that you were taking notes during these seminars. By the way.
Okay, it's okay. So what he was saying is it's not a CPU or GPU or a PS4 expansion, which is I think some people are referring it to that way. But it does the 3D audio processing, and it does the social screen. And now the 3D audio with VR, like, and I was actually staying with a composer who was in my room.
Yeah.
This is the most mind-blowing thing because you basically have to forget everything about how you handle and mix audio for VR.
Because it's like way harder.
It's just it's a completely different pipeline.
Okay.
Like you send the audio signal as a mono source, and then you assign it to points in the virtual space. So you don't try to mix it a certain way. Like it processes it, based on where you're looking and all that craziness.
That is very crazy.
This is awesome.
Yeah. so it's like, and trying to relay that third hand is hard, but it was fascinating to hear about, like, man, and all the audio people I was around were similarly having to wrap their head around that, and people were saying, it's like, devs, get your audio people in as early as possible because you need to rethink how this works.
Yeah.
But then the biggest cool takeaway from GDC, again, is, like I said, just that family vibe. And just, I mean, I'm serious. Every day I would be walking around and people would come up, introduce themselves. I hand my lunch ticket to a guy to get my lunch. And it was like, oh, hey, I'm a big fan. I'm like, I'm so sorry for whatever you have. And then, because I got married, it was like I always had the, congratulations, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Right.
Conversation.
Always start with I'm sorry, everybody.
Countless people. But, it's like, I decided, like, okay, I'm not just going to sit at the first lunch table. I'm going to look around. It's like, oh, there's Andrew Renee, and I sit down and have lunch with Andrew Renee, so just a lot of really cool things like that.
Which of these two is your wedding band?
This one.
Nice. Let's get a look.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Blood Official.
Congratulations,
Anyway.
Yeah.
So we do have bad news. We've done our congratulations. Now we have to say I'm sorry. There was a studio shut down. Evolution Studios was shut down by Sony.
Not the only one, actually.
You have more? This is a development story?
Yeah. Well, the Lion had a few weeks back.
Right.
Oh, sure.
And then there are some other Microsoft studios. I don't remember the name off the top of my head.
That was Press Play.
Press Play, yeah.
Yeah.
But Evolution is kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
They put out...
I mean, all of them are a big deal, actually, but...
But Drive Club... Was it just called Drive Club Bikes? The expansion. The Drive Club expansion.
Drive Club expansion came out a few months ago, yeah.
Just in October.
Yeah.
And so this is crazy. Brandon, I might make you read Sony's press release.
Okay.
Because
I haven't read that yet.
They explained why they shut down Evolution.
All right.
I need you to read this in a dry British accent.
Okay.
It starts right here with reviews.
Regular reviews take place throughout SCE Worldwide Studios, ensuring that the resources that we have in such a competitive landscape can create and produce high-quality, innovative, and commercially viable projects. As part of this process, we have reviewed and assessed all current projects and plans for the short and medium term, I like that, and have decided to make some changes to the European studio structure. As a result, it has been decided that Evolution Studio will close. It is regrettable that this decision will lead to compulsory redundancies.
Okay, you can stop there.
Okay.
Compulsory redundancies.
That's a very British way of saying layoffs, yeah.
It bums me out. The language really bums me out. I realize, like, obviously people, you gotta shut studios down. It happens.
But there was also, we accept that this decision will mean that we risk losing high caliber staff, and it's the European caliber. Mm-hmm. RE. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Well, terrible, but amusing in its weird way.
Yeah.
This breaks my heart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the director is actually a fan of us.
Yeah, he's corrected us in the past, hasn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
So he's been behind. Yeah. So that's kind of the weird thing. Like people were even giving Shu some headaches earlier because he's talking about supporting us, and then he's like, it's like, yeah, what you're gonna do? You're gonna get rid of them too.
I saw that. Yeah, I did. I wasn't sure what she was
yeah.
referencing. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. The Wipeout Studio too. He has to. Studios have to shut down. I guess what I wanted to ask the panel is, did Sony? I'm trying to be super polite here. With Gran Turismo coming, Gran Turismo Sport is coming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did they need Drive Club? Did they ever need Drive Club? You know what I mean? Should they have continued to support Drive Club?
I think that's where the market is. Unfortunately, with racing games right now, is that it's like you either hit it out of the park completely, or you've got a rough time. from these big studios. Like they, and this is a racing studio. This is what they've been making.
Yeah, we should say that actually. The other game is like Motorstorm.
Motorstorm
right?
series last gen, and before that they had some rally games and a whole bunch of other stuff. But it's always they've been very laser focused on racing games, and it's very hard to seemingly to sell arcade racing games anymore. It's like you just have these super high boutique racing games that seem to be the last kind of parts of the market, or very cheap games.
Yeah, indie games. There's indie racing games that aren't bad, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Ben.
I can't help but be frustrated, and I want to gauge your guys' thoughts on this because it might just be me. But when Drive Club came out, it was criticized for lack of features, rightfully so, and other things, right?
Well, yeah, it had a complete network failure.
Right, and over time, the way that Evolution supported that game and the stuff that they put in it, I mean, if you were to track the online conversations and the tone in what people were saying changed so dramatically. But that game got reviewed once, and I'm not saying it shouldn't have been criticized. I'm not saying it should have gotten a free pass. But it's weird to me that, like, obviously out of the gate is incredibly important, but the way that games work now, the way that they are, like, that gradual shift over time matters also.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're still constrained to this super limited review system that doesn't properly accommodate that. Like, I have to wonder if reviews work differently if we'd be reading the story right now.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we should do this because we have a limited amount of time, but like, can we talk about Street Fighter V in relation to this? I think
absolutely.
It really leads into there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I feel like Street Fighter V will always be bad in the public eye.
Yeah. But will it always deserve to be viewed bad in the public eye? And some people are going to say, you know what, it sucked out of the gate, like it deserves that stigma.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure, like that's not how life works. Like just
right.
because you mess something up at once, it doesn't mean you can't get better and be a different thing and transform.
Yeah, I think it's an issue that has not been solved, especially because it's very much kind of held onto by the Metacritics and things, right?
Absolutely.
It's like you go and it's like, oh, the Drive Club's $20 this month. Should I buy it or not? And you look at Metacritic and it's like, oh, it's just 5.8 or whatever it is, and it's like, well, no, it was a 5.8 on launch day when hardly anyone could play it. Now, if everyone reviewed it, maybe it would be a 7.9 or an 8.2. It's like it has changed very dramatically since then.
And you have to wonder, like, I know so many people that they'll get on Amazon, they'll be like, oh, there's a sale on this game that I've been kind of interested in. They will go to Metacritic and they'll be like, nope, sorry, 70 ain't good enough for me. Like, that happens all the time.
For my $60. Because it honestly becomes a money proposition, I think, a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Jones is grimacing. He's hurt.
I have a very unpopular opinion about this.
Oh, here we go. Oh, that's what we want. Bring it on. Here we go. What is it?
It's got to be a level playing field. Some people didn't have that problem. Some people launched, their game worked, it was fine.
Okay.
You chose to make a game that was reliant entirely on internet code, and it didn't work. Sorry. But you can't... Wait, no. Review our game next week. Review Division in 2 weeks. But review Firewatch now. Like, oh, okay. Well, when should I score? And then when does the score stop? It's like, what, was it 2 months or 5 years if it was remastered? Does that affect my opinion of, gotta go back and redo the old thing? Because now that I look at that texture remaster, that cliff looked real good. I don't think I gave that sunset that did due back then. Sorry, your game launched. It's go time.
Brandon, what's crazy is
no one would watch reviews if we changed the structure. It would just the whole concept of the review process would just drop because it's like, I don't know what that means. It's just all we just want to all shake hands and be happy about everything, and it's like it's that fear. That's why you put the review at the end. That's why when we were like, oh, we'll put scores on our front page. We were like, what are you doing? It's the whole reason I'm watching this is because like I want that build up to like where the culmination of the whole development process of this game, and it's got to have an ending. It can't end and then end and then end and then end again.
I actually totally agree with you. I think
but it's a problem at the same time. I'll admit that for sure.
No. The thing is you're absolutely right. Like there's no reason that like a game that knocks everything out of the park right away, like the game that shouldn't like catch up to that game or get an extended period of time. That doesn't make any sense. You're 100% right. I'm on board with everything you said, but the stuff that comes after matters. Do you think that stuff doesn't matter critically?
It as far as no, but you can criticize a game without changing your score. You know, you can still criticize it and you can still talk about it.
Yeah,
But the problem is like people don't care about the score. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think the problem is that there's honestly not a good solution.
There isn't.
Because, you know, I mean, you basically like, you know, as a reviewer, you know, when we get back to reviews, hopefully, you know, soon. But as a reviewer, it's like you want to have a review out there as soon as people can buy the game so that they have the information.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like we're saying, it's like, well, this review is now a snapshot on a moving target, you know, and it's like, but you don't have the man hours to update that snapshot. And if you're not experiencing the game for the first time, your perception's not going to be the same. And it's just everything about it is super weird.
Like, your returns are diminishing no matter what. If everyone in the industry agreed to never review another game, we're never going to do it. Like, we're all just, the reviews stopped.
Yeah.
It's you're just riding purely on, you know, everybody on the internet spreading good vibes and saying good things, quotes, you know, from events and stuff like that. That's all you have. Popularity is going to drop. It's just the other games are going to come out. Like, that's your week. It's it. That's your shot.
Yeah.
That's why we freak about the movies that launch at the same time. Like, what are you doing? Why don't you just wait a week and then that's your week? You know, and so it's like
the launch is that first impression.
Yeah.
That first week of people logging onto Twitch and saying, "What is this?" That's so important.
And if I'm a Capcom and I'm looking at like the Street Fighters is one of our major things, I'm going to Sony like, okay, well, if you're gonna help us make this game, this code, it's got to work. And you know, I might want to do a little more research on this because I was fascinated by it at the time, and then I think back and I go, wait, it's Activision, so maybe I want to like, you know, just read the fine print here. But like, Call of Duty has never had this issue ever.
Of what?
Call of Duty launched and no one could play multiplayer matches. It always
I think
works.
they've had some
They've
very
had
serious
some
issues on
issues.
PC.
But not like maybe like a game or two, but it's not something where like another Call of Duty comes out and you're like, here we go again. You know, that like there have been Whereas like the Battlefield 4, all right, you know, here we go again. Like, what's this next one gonna be?
Well,
like?
you know, here's another
So the difference is there to me also about companies that choose that Activision's making the point that Call of Duty cannot be known for this.
But
it doesn't matter what it takes, we have to make that work.
But there are so many inconsistencies though, right? Because Destiny comes out, okay, gets critically panned in a lot of instances, right? Just because they come out with something that is called an expansion, right? They get another review, and I feel like they get to have the Metacritic change for them because people are going to be looking for reviews of Destiny the Taken King, not Destiny. Not everybody chooses to do a model like that, right? Somebody will. There are so many developers nowadays that will come out with like 1 gig patches, 3 gig patches, 5 gig patches, 12 gig patches, especially on PC, that for whatever reason can't call it an expansion, but never get the chance for that work to be recognized in an official critical way. That doesn't make any sense.
Clarify something, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to.
Okay.
Did Street Fighter V have a Japanese arcade release?
No.
No, it didn't have any arcade release at all.
Exactly.
Sure.
So here's what I think is also kind of maybe hampering people is we are moving towards worldwide releases, and a lot of these issues, honestly, were Japanese issues, you know, on certain games that got figured out and ironed out before the rest of the world got a hold of it. And I know, like, you know, personally, my experience with the Wind Waker, for instance, the whole Triforce fetch quest at the end.
Yeah.
Like, people complain about that still. It was actually way worse in the Japanese version, and they took that feedback and they made it better. And then before it came out in the U.S., it was streamlined. You know, it still wasn't perfect, but it was streamlined. And there's a lot of things like that happen, which now that like you got one chance.
Right.
Before
You know what
they
the
had a couple
solution
of chances. Yeah.
There should be more soft launches in Australia.
Right.
That's the solution. Soft launch in
Hi,
Australia.
Australia.
And then when it comes out here, we'll like give it a good review. That is funny though, Blood. You're right. In many cases, like Final Fantasy games as well. Final Fantasies improve.
And then they'll re-release it in Japan.
That's the international
version.
There's one thing that I want to bring up for the Capcom thing. I still think they should absolutely be criticized, but what Street Fighter V is a direct response to Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right? Where they saw the anger that like 6 months later there was like super, you know, like people didn't like buying super version, buying ultra versions, buying arcade versions. They saw the anger about that, and so like, okay, we're going to propose Street Fighter V as a service. We're going to communicate to people that this is something you're investing in now. It's going to get better over time. I guarantee you they didn't know that the response was going to be like, oh, why isn't there all this stuff? Like, it didn't make sense to them. Like, this was their first time trying out a model like this, and they completely miscalculated what people wanted out of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, Ben, I really think they rushed it out to, like, hit a mark.
Do you think it's because I agree with that too? I think they got it out for Evo for the professional scene, but do you think it is a combination of both of those things?
No, I don't think it's for Evo. I think it was for, like, Capcom's financials. Like, oh, we need to sell a game right now before the quarter is over or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it looks like to me. I think a Capcom CEO doesn't even know what Evo is. I don't know. We should move on, though. I don't like talking about studios closing. As you know, we got shut down. We know what that feels like. It happens. Let's move on to Love and Respect.
Love and Respect.
So, these come from our patrons. If you pay, I think, $5 or more is the tier, you can send us any topics you'd like covered in the Love and Respect segment of the show. Let's do this one. Yeah, this might be an interesting discussion. Okay, this comes from Dan Sebring. I'd like to know the panel's thoughts on the fact that in every other game, action, adventure, RPG at least, the main protagonist is all too often a hero of some sort, likely with the fate of the world or humanity on his or her shoulders.
Darn right.
At least myself can feel a bit tired of the fact that my character is supposed to be this greatest of the great, one-of-a-kind savior type. I find it difficult to really relate to them, compared to if I just play the average Joe just trying to my best to survive or perhaps save that one person I love or whatever and be happy with that. Not always do the stakes have to be so high. Haven't we saved the world enough times already?
Yeah.
Dude,
Like Catherine, something immediately jumps to mind.
You found you like that was
I've not played Catherine, but I
Okay.
think of him as being a very uncharacteristic,
Sure, protagonist.
fallible protagonist that's just trying to not piss his girlfriend off. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that's as bad as it's gonna get. Or you're gonna get forced into a marriage you don't want, or have a kid you don't want, or whatever. Telltale also I think does a good job out of making very interesting characters out of just kind of like a farmer or like a dude or like
Sure.
a cop or they're there, but I'm not necessarily making a point. It's just these are just games that are spouting.
Well, hold on. Your
Into
first
my brain.
comment actually was, hell yeah. It sounds like you like saving the world.
It's fun. I love the Assassin's Creed franchise, and that's definitely one where it's like
You're
now
saving
now
the
meet
world
this person that's the most important person of that century. Like okay,
Yeah.
And just the whole mythos around assassins is hilarious to me. They all get their hoods up, walking through town, gold plated everything. There's just like, oh, there goes Ted. Anyway, it's like what? That's clearly, it's him. It's that guy.
What do you feel conflicted on this? I hear.
no. I feel very straightforward on this.
Whoa, okay. What's up?
It's in big companies, in publicly owned companies, the way video games get made is like the most depressing thing ever. It's soul crushing. It's awful. The only way things get made is based on what is perceived as successful. Take the MMO genre. People are getting mad at me for this because I love MMOs. I play them all the time. The MMO genre, in a way, is like the most creatively stagnant genre out there in terms of setting and tone.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
Like, how many MMOs can you think of that are not set in space or in some fantasy realm?
Oh no.
I bet you can't name 10.
Yeah.
Like, because when new MMOs come out, the questions people are asking are, what's the combat going to be like? What's the progression? What's the end game?
Yeah.
What character customization is going to be? So they hear this feedback and they see this feedback and they're like, okay, we just got to nail that stuff. And, well, let's do a setting and a tone that's successful, right? Like, outside of a few instances here or there, people are not showing that they care about an MMO that isn't in a fantasy realm or in space. So until that shift happens, until there is a presence for that voice, that is what you're going to get until the end of time.
Blood, how do you feel about this, man? Are you sick of saving the world?
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's one of it's like I'll sound like a broken record now. It was one of the things that has attracted me with The Witcher. Is because like there is sort of that in the backstory a little bit, but it's not what you're directly involved with. You're like the world is kind of going on like in spite of what you try to do, there, and you help this person or that person, but even then, when you try to help somebody, they might get pissed off at you, or they might die anyways, or trying to help somebody will cause some other horrible thing to happen.
Yeah.
So it's, I think that there's a lot of those, just like, there's been so much raising the stakes that like, okay, like we gotta stop sometime, right? Just like focus on something smaller, some smaller stories, It's like I'm a Doctor Who fan as well, and like it annoys me there. It's like you just like rewrite everything every time because like you can't get any bigger.
It's anime. That's what anime is. Yeah.
Okay, the second review I did for Game Trailers was for a game called Cart Life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The PC game.
Mm-hmm. Cart Life is a game where you play as different characters, but they're dealing with the most mundane problems ever. They're just trying to pay rent, or they're trying to go through a divorce, or they're, like, you are dealing with real life. And it was so fascinating the way that they interpreted those everyday struggles into a video game and how they presented them and how they made that playable. I loved it. I gave it a high score. If you can find it on GameTrailers.com or YouTube or whatever it is, go look at those comments. Go look at the comments for that review.
Oh no,
they're deeply depressing.
Oh,
it is.
God.
I don't want to play a game that deals with real life. Like this isn't what I want. Get this filth out of here. Like so negatively aggressive against something that tries to do something different.
Walking simulator, I think, is a really derogatory term. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hear you, dude. You know what? I have an example that can lead into our next question, which we can do actually pretty fast. Because I'm playing through Pokemon Red right now, and you're not trying to save the world in that game.
Right.
And I love it. You are your own person on your own personal Pokemon adventure, and it works.
Dude, awesome example.
Yeah, so, they're out there. But yeah, Dan Sebring, we feel you, man.
I will say one thing I prefer more than the other. I would much rather have, like, Hero out of the gate, a game that starts from the very beginning and is like, you are the most important person in the world, you have to save the world. I'm like, okay, cool, at least I know that.
Campbell would not approve of this. You can't do that out of the
I
gate.
hate it when I'm like a third of the way through and it's just like, you're not some lowly pauper, you're actually the son of the king. And you're like, oh god,
Dude.
it's like, I knew that. Like,
But you're not that's not the hero can't know that though, Joe.
Here's kind of a funny thing in a way.
But I'm tired of that. I'm more tired of that than
I get
just
you, sure.
the main guy's got to
I
be
would
a
like
hero.
somebody to write the alternate perspective of Super Metroid, where Samus is this person that comes to this planet for the sole sake of just blowing it up.
Cool, I'm on board.
Yeah.
The next one comes from Classiest Hobos. This is a quick one. This may be too personal, but why the heck I'm interested. Me too. I would like to hear what games you've been playing during your time off between Game Trailers and Easy Alliance. I always find games are helpful when I'm going through big life changes, and I think the games we choose to play when feeling down can say something about how we deal with stuff. For example, I usually go back and replay some old game I know well, like Ocarina of Time. Obviously, Pokemon Red and Blue couldn't have come out at a better time for Kyle, but I would love to know what the rest of you and why you think you found those games appealing. What did you play on your time off?
Dude, I love this question.
Yeah, it's a cool question, I thought.
Honestly, I've actually been so stressed of trying to figure everything out that I have played games quite a bit less.
Have you tried to play a game and you're like, I'm not into this right now?
A little
Yes.
bit, yeah.
I've had some of that too, Ben.
A little bit.
What'd you try to play, Ben? Where you're like, I can't get into this right now.
So the way that my brain worked, it was like, okay, you have this extra time to play all those RPGs or all those games from 2015 that you missed, like Life is Strange is at the top of that list.
Yeah.
And then every time I think about committing to a certain amount of hours, I'm like, I feel this incredible amount of guilt where I'm like, I'm just sitting here not getting a job. What am I doing?
Right,
Dude,
exactly.
Yeah.
And-
yeah.
And I can't do it. And I feel so bad because I want to play these things as they're to be played. And so I'm like, I trick myself. I like talk myself down. I'm like, well, why don't I play something that is less of a commitment? Well, I'll just play a round of Hearthstone, or I'll just do a round of Heroes of the Storm. So like, that way I can de-stress, but then I can focus. Never works. End up playing like 4 hours of Hearthstone or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, my brain just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing. I've just kind of gone to just things that I know are like less of a commitment. Well, one, I wanted to finish The Witness because before I went off on the honeymoon, on the wedding, it was like I was trying to get that final challenge, and I stayed up really late and I still couldn't do it. So like that was the number one goal, to get through
Get that trophy.
that platinum trophy.
Yeah.
And then I did Firewatch. Which my wife has now played twice.
I did. I played Firewatch a second time.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I
second
played.
time, man?
It was the last game I ever reviewed for Game Trailers. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to play this again.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a little more time into this. If this may be the last game I ever review, the last VO I ever do. And thankfully, that's not the case.
Oh, you played it twice before the review.
I played it...
once before the review and then after.
That second time makes no sense to me, man. You did it.
I played it, and then I played it again. I didn't finish it the second time, and then I started a whole new playthrough because I was like, wait, no, I screwed up, and I went back, and I'm like, I'm gonna nail this playthrough. I'm gonna do all the things I want to do. That freaking turtle I missed like twice. I'm like, where's this turtle? So it's just the stuff I'd read, stuff Easter eggs people had pointed out. I'm like, I want to do one playthrough, and specifically the female protagonist that you play.
Hold on, don't you do any spoilers? What are you up to?
You've heard her in the trailer?
No, this is a Brandon
The
Jones
voice.
spoiler
No.
joint. This is
I'm scared of the second half of the sentence. Is what I'm scared of.
Okay, you know how you talk to a woman in the game?
Don't you do this?
There are decisions you make in the game
Okay, all right,
that
I'll allow
affect
it.
conversations
I'll
you
allow
have.
it. Okay, I'll allow it.
And I tried to get other conversations. There's this game called Mass Effect, and you get 3 options, and based on one you pick, the story will go in different directions.
Do you think there's a person who listens to podcasts who could still be surprised by the end of Mass Effect 3?
No, I think that's gone. Yeah, we're about 2 years past that.
But it sounded like you had more.
And the other one is, you played as well, is Assault Android Cactus, which one of our viewers gave to us. Yeah.
That's a really good, like what Ben's talking about. Like, this is low commitment. I don't have to play this for too long.
And that game's actually really good.
It is. It's
I need
very
to
good.
play it. I need to play it.
Jones, one story I liked from you though is that you finally played some Disney Infinity.
I binged on Disney Infinity.
Yeah.
The reference I like to make is that Disney Infinity was my pint of vanilla ice cream after a bad breakup.
Mine was Digimon.
Nice.
I just lost myself in deep depression into Digimon. It felt
But it wasn't repetitive. It was actually like for example, farming is something you do with 3.0, and like I farmed for like an hour when I was reviewing it, and I was like, oh, and those plants get okay, I got it.
He means
like
farming. He means planting seeds.
I can
and growing
see
plants.
I can see the progression here. I'm not actually gonna do it before I score this game, but I see where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I did it. I mean, I built like 10 different toy box farms. Like one's Tatooine, one's like Wonderland, one's like Mickey's farm.
Yeah.
One's, so it was fun. I got to kind of like regress and pretend I was like that 8-year-old kid that got all the figures for Christmas, and I own no other game. So I'm just like gonna just hammer at this. One thing that was really interesting, very quick.
No, you're
we
fine.
got Primal right when our site got shut down, and that was just kind of like right in that window where like Ubisoft like sent that to us and might have been like, oh wait, whoa, if you got shut down last week, we might want to send that because you're probably not reviewing it. We just sent you 6 copies of Far Cry Primal.
Yeah.
So I had the PS4 copy of Far Cry Primal, shrink wrapped like I think a week and a half before it launched, and I didn't play it until after launch. For the same reason that like I just kind of kept staring at it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to dive into a 20-30 hour first-person exploration Ubisoft tower shooter game.
Yeah.
And then I ended up playing it and fell in love with it and then hooked ever since. But
You just coined the category as tower shooter.
tower shooter.
Ben, what was the last thing that you had?
The only thing I wanted to comment on
Yeah.
is like I don't know if you know this or not, but you playing Digimon was actually like how I centered myself like for that the first like 2 weeks.
Oh, when you saw me like on your friends list?
Yeah. So what would happen is I would wake up and I would feel more depressed than I've ever been in my life. Like I just felt empty inside. Like the entire world was different than what I thought it'd be. It was that like stranger in a strange land, and then I would turn on my PS4. I'm like, okay, I was playing Digimon. Okay, that makes sense. Everything is okay. The world is still spinning. It actually really helped me. So
Cool. Thank you. I'm glad I could help.
thank you for playing Digimon, being depressed.
Thank you, Digimon. At the end of this, we really just got to thank Digimon. Let's do bets. We're still doing bets. We're just going to mix it up a little because here's how the format of the show works now. Because we don't have a permanent spot and we're rotating people around. These 2 seats in the middle are rotating. As we are in Jones's, what do you call this room? What are we in?
It's a garage.
Because we're in Jones's garage. Jones will be here every week. I'll be here every week. And so Jones and I are a team.
Yeah.
The 2 people in the middle
Gulp.
are also another team. Our bets are still independent. We still win independently, but our points go toward our team. At the end of the year, one of these 2 teams will win. Our bet this week. If this is your first time watching, we do bets. We do bets every single week, and we take them very seriously.
It's actually everybody's first time watching.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Easy Eyes Podcast.
I can't wait till I watch it for the first time.
MLB The Show 16 comes out next week on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3. That old console from 2006, 10 years old, still has new releases. At this point next week, how many more reviews, meaning just the number next to the stars, will the PS4 version have over the PS3 version? Jones, why don't you reveal first? Give me a good number. You're on my team now.
Uh-oh. Give you a good... Should I write it again?
No.
I don't know if
Yeah.
this is a great number. I'm going 88. Seems like a good baseball number. I
Yeah,
like it.
nice. Okay. Ben?
Very good. My number a little bit higher, 103. Hard to see, but 103.
Nice.
Oh, I'm going up 147.
Ooh.
131. So we have a weird little mix of numbers
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I think I'm the only one that didn't go triple digits.
I like it because we got like a wide base here, Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, let me lock those in.
Yeah, they got the low end.
But we can't team up before. We have to set that.
No,
I
I
didn't
got
know
the
what
high
you were
No,
gonna
no,
bet.
that,
You
that
didn't
is
know what I was
important to
gonna
know.
bet.
Is that that's the only way
We
to make
can't-
this
we
game
can't-
really
yeah.
work.
I feel like this is rigged. Them getting the low and the high worries me.
No, actually, I got the high.
Are you at the high?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they got
Blood's
the
got
low,
the
I got the high.
Oh, okay. Then we're fine.
It's actually like that's the most interesting that could have turned out. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're really excited to see how those Amazon reviews come out for MLB The Show 16 on PlayStation 3. Didn't know it was still happening. Anyway, usually at this point we have a winner. Obviously we have no winner yet because it's the very first episode. We also have corrections at the beginning, so don't be alarmed the next time you hear the show. There's corrections. We're serious about those. I wanted to sign off just a message to our patrons. Obviously, I'm very grateful to everyone who watches. Even if you're paying nothing, I still definitely appreciate you. But to the patrons in particular, I just want to say big thanks to you because basically this group of people were owned by two very large companies where it's easy to feel like you don't have a lot of value inside of those big companies. Nothing against those big companies. That's just where we were.
Or just hard to exactly gauge your value.
Yeah,
To know where you
exactly.
sit.
And just so to have a value on us, to feel valuable is an incredible feeling, and it's because of you. It is directly because of what you did for us. And I just want to say thanks for that, so that we can feel like what we do has value. That's incredible.
Well said.
We also got to thank some people that are directly sponsoring this show. We have a
Yeah.
whole tier of patrons that I'm about to read off all of their
Let's
names.
do it. You have it
So
right here?
I know I don't have. I'm going to do
Oh,
that.
okay.
I'm going to do that in VO.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So brace for that and get ready. If you watch this show and you catch it later and you're like, what is this weird 5-minute straight Micro Machine reading of all of these crazy names?
Yeah.
We did it. And we were like, yeah, we'll have a couple dozen. I'll read them at the end of the show. And yeah, like
can't tell you-
everything else associated with our Patreon, it
blew up.
completely blew up expectations.
Yeah.
We also have several direct, major funding sponsors of the show itself, which I'm gonna read off in a little bit after the cameras close down and I switch to VO. But we will integrate those more organically into the show moving forward.
Cool.
Next episode will be different. We'll hopefully have better mics, better everything.
Hopefully the couch. But the couch in
Yeah.
1 week is a little unrealistic, isn't it?
We'll see.
We might have these wooden flimsy chairs still. Should we do more business? Obviously, go to patreon.com/easyallies. Twitch.tv/easyallies is where we'll be streaming every weekday.
Twitter handles, because nobody won, so somebody.
You want to do all our Twitter handles? Will be nice. We'll be a nice Easy Allies. We all say our Twitter handles.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your Twitter handle?
I am at Trailer Jones.
That's new, actually. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we're saying.
New show, new handle.
I'm at BenMoore035.
At DBloodworth2.
I'm at Kyle Bosman. Also at Easy Allies is
Correct.
our Easy
Easy
Allies
Allies on
one.
Twitter.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Definitely check out our Patreon. At least look at it, look over what we got coming, and check out our Twitch, check out our things, see what we're about. This song that you're hearing right now was made by Phantom NK, so thank you, Phantom NK. We really
So
appreciate
sick.
that. And I guess that's it, right? Are we done?
We're done.
That's
We
it.
also- No, we're not done yet. We have to agree on a sign-off. We all agree to do all of our Twitter handles together. We also have to agree on a sign-off.
On a collective sign
A
off?
collective sign-off.
This is a big thing, Kyle.
I know.
It's sprung up on us.
Just kind of throw in there right at the end.
Okay, here's what we'll do then. This is gonna be fun. It's an improv game. We're going to say one word of the sign-off, and then one person.
No.
Yeah. The last person waves. Jones, I'll let you.
Are we doing this every time? Or are
No,
we...
no, no, just
this
this
is
one
This is
time.
episode. Just
Okay.
Because there's no winner this week. This is
Right.
what we have
Okay.
to do.
Okay. And then next week we got to do our individual sign-offs if
Yeah,
we win.
yeah.
Okay.
So here's
all
our
right.
here's our group trademark sign-off. Jones, kick it off.
Kick.
some.
Blood, you know what comes next. Don't be shy.
Cheese.
Tonight.
The Easy Allies would like to thank the following patrons: Colin Unger, Adam Batiglia, Michael Kozachenko, Devin Gibbs, Ebb Software. Simon Anderson, Jesse, Beaten Down Brian, Mango, Benjamin Goldberg, Rick Argomenes. Bradley Spies, Richard Smuts, Alex Koch, Boris Scherl, Matthew Pauling, Ibrahim Sozer, Datamouth, David Witt, Chris and Rebecca McKeague, Wesley Welcomer, Zachary Wingate, Caleb Aranda, Brad Lohman, The Banana Forklift Killer, Patrick Chong, Brian Woods, Colt, Peter Ward, Jay Shee, Ken Lair, Yasser Aluseni, Clayton Ingram, David Peterson, Walker Hope, Oliver Ingham, Anthony, Joshua Lair, Gary James, Ahmad Sami, Todd Yurkovic, Paul Young, Tanner Holmes, Neil Generous, Andrew Kidd, Taylor Bingham, Glenn Boland, Robert I, Mark J. Betters II, Gino Alit, Muhammad, Brent Phillips, Genma123, Seiko Shining Force 2, Umar Chaudhry, Phoenix, Jason A. Sackle, Johans Bretz, Ian, Carl Karrison, Ingo Tulets, Rory McGuire, Lucas Christensen, Yong Lee, Lee Young, Jeffrey Shearer, 44 Stars, Olafur Waig, Matthias Hessevig Jensen, Paul Judge, Patrick Guittard, Austin Belzer, Derek Kuhn, Christopher Wells, David Nguyen, Joaquin Maruvo, Randy Puckett, Andrew Aiken, Tim O'Keefe, Kristen59, Matthew Shornig, Yo Butts, Sean Hasney, Jan Themson, Athena XX, Isabella Crane, Stephen Armenta, G. Levin, Hendra Wardy, John Michael, Jeffrey Daniel Lasley, Ian Staana, Charles Anthony Iapicino, Siege H, Keo Corder, Impact 93, Magenov, Greg Kettering, Gustav Stromborn, Conglator, That One Video Gamer, Garrett Evett, Kaylee Murdoch. Fabian Schuster, Samuel Justice, Stephen K, Alonzo Jasberry, Wayne Utterback, Tristan Howard, Thorir Danielson, Alan Nguyen, Bjoinar Haraldsvik, Tuttle, Eduardo, Nuno Amaral, Brendan Kennedy Gould, Anders Algreen Hansen, Michael Bisegli, Ferris Denning, Forrest Polk, Colin Mulholland, Nestor Reyes, Christine Shireman, Bonnie and Jason Connor, Christopher Pullen, Zach Leon, Stephen Wagstaff, AZ, Sam Joven, Ahab, Junya Motomura, Christopher Foss, Peter Davis, Peter Nguyen, Michael Riley, Joel Peterson, Alan Voss, Jacob Whittington, Hugo Kalm, Azazel Valkyrie, Eric Jackson, Evan Branham Davis, Ryan E. Garcia, Coderd1115, Hansel S. Thompson, Marco Zanone, Joey and Kate, Adam Adler, Ya Boy Benny B, Edison S. Prada Jr., Zachary Stevenson, Raymond Chow, Garrett Falhess, Grassman Matt, Riche Nadeau, Michael Favocci, Julio Ruiz, Evan Anderson, Darius Chambers, Justin Wenderoth, Evan Eng, Captain Fancy Pants, Stephen Purifoy, Nick Mazzola, Kevin Camposano, Alfredo Gonzalez, Patrick Bradburn, Evan Ponce, Stephen S., Andy H., Bryce Ray Parker, David Ferber, Ryan Anderson, Maximilian Liebig, Adam Hipster Hunter, Toby Well, Jackson Myers, Sebastian Trier, Louis Ibarra, Adam Ward, James Helmus, Oscar Lechuga, Eddie Reister, Alan Zia, Alexander Ockelhan, Garrett Starnes, Alan Rusin, Mike Hook 1, Paul David Santana, Nathaniel Howe, Jeff Robertson, Zach Bardsley, Two-Headed Turtle, Calgareth, Christopher Dixon, Leaf Johnson, Don Turner, Thrashanuva, Jake Landry, V. Cura Ray, Alex Brandt, Fabian Kindle, Zoostic, Brandon Roberts, Carl Williams, Kevin DeBolt, Jonas, Marcus Hernandez, David, Ben Sheen, Michael Tennick, Owen DJ, David Kennedy, Themo Prus, Robert Stoffel, Michael Agent, Krzysztof Rogowski, Jemmy Milson, Zinterax, Christopher, Fozzie, Marcel Froelich, Jan Veit, Spencer Weeb, Ryan Tangman, Divinity, Raphael Gowinski, Modren, Evan Anderson, Monica, Wayne Brannigan, Stephen Blomkamp, Andrew Wanser, Paul Bishop, G. Sith, Tony Knox, Luke Arnold, David Wong, Guraneko 182, Justin Masick, Dave Lawrence, Matt Ferguson, Shutaro Takeda, Juan Lobo, Marius Matheson, Ed Marino, Eric Gustafson, Usman Khan, Alex Monaco, Alfredo De Leon, Reiner, Taylor Hoyt, Mans Anderson, Douglas Skiles, Andrew H., Merrick Orachowski, Brian Kaz, Sun Pham, Garen Murtaugh, Oscar Anderson, Jason Hill, Sean Mackey, Kim Monk, Von der Ley, Hogginson Peterson, Sean McGowan, Slacker Becker, Paolo Constable, The Original Snitch, Brett Morris, Elliot Moscow, Thomas Wigington Jr., Kyle Painter, Ed Costigan, Lance Mink, Andrew Buchter, Daniel McCone, Shinaclone, Henry Clark, Ciara, Carlos Gonzalez, Michelle Nubb, Christopher A. Butler, John Mayer, Mizak, Gustav Summers, Michael Paez, Paul Roost, Manuel Thomas, Quinton Valiente, Dan Sebring, Reed Johnson, Sajad Wagan, The Hashtagonist, Matthew Coulomb, Dustin DeMello, Cody Wesley, Thomas Abrams, Trey Whetstone, Dinesh Patel, Michael Kozak, Joe Burns, Peter Shoemaker, Grant Richardson, KBM 13, Carl Smith, Lucas Smith, Adam Henry, Laurent Kantz, Michelle Musselman, Justin Moore, Donnie, Kevin Altman, Ryan Miller, Phoenix Rouge, Ricardo Moreno, Taggart McStone, Nick Kirkorado, Niels Frederick Elbols, Eric Santoy, Chris Sleep, David Ebby, Sebastian Urban, Randy Verschuren, Jonathan Trier, Helping Leon, Robert Ori Einerson, Amy Hunt, Philip Klarskoff Jensen, Willem DeVue, Edvin Zek, Simon Chamberlain, Tim Strothman, Trolls Rasmussen, Adam Mulaney, Michael Shriver, Louis Chu, Neil Brophy, Manuel Gebert, Ulf himself, Morgan Worth, Florian Morgenbesser, David Hannon, Kosser Friedensberg, Nielsen, Socrates, Gail Gutierrez, Lars, Mark, Refill, Adam Draymond, Ian Barker, Oliver Castedid, Mubarak Al-Sharad, Joaquin Bang, PJ Garona, Brendan Townsley, Roman Udolf, Jan, Eric Steffens, Sam Sorensen, Tarek Lehem, Joey Donaldson, Mecca Messiah, Matthias Larson, Jake Musser, Travis Ing, Faraz Rizvi, Sean De Almeida, Oliver Brandt, Daniel Turnold, Alexander Schiller, Carlos Lopez, Self-Confessed Cynic, Richard Godsell, David Bajarski, Elric, Biltone Mayum, Kevin Kirk, Elizabeth, Andreas Kother, Sandra Bernard, Colby Keith, MJ, Durgash Patel, Broderick, Gordas, Trey Blissett, Andrew Allen, Connor Racine, Andrew Gregoire, Jonathan Ramirez, Aaron Lopez, Skender Yashari, Michael Eaton, Alec Church, Anthony Gomez, Kevin Fritas, Robert Marquardt, Jorge, Sammy, Dale Payne, Trung Nguyen, James Kennedy, Aaron Murphy, Bastwood, Spencer Jerome, Calder Fertig, Tyler Dennis, Jack Cooksley, Richard Illy, Mantuan Huang, Siama Mishra, Marty Savage, Kyle Bradford, William Kirk, Ferris Ruhi, Christopher Santis, Dennis Franklin. Thanks everybody, see you next week.